regarding the ZKBiosecurity. Good morning, everyone. My name is Godfrey. I will be conducting today's training on ZKBiosecurity. I'm going to start with the presentation, just a basic introduction of the software. What is biosecurity? So basically, biosecurity is an ultimate all-in-one web-based platform developed by ZKTeco. It contains multiple integrated modules like your access control, elevator, portal, your visitor management, and card patrol, which you can add your video linkages using your IP cameras. It has an optimized system architecture designed for fully and high level of biometric identification, and a modern user interface, which makes it friendly and user friendly. You can use. And then these are the basic technical specifications of the ZKBiosecurity. It can take up to 2,000 doors on a single server, and then up to 8,000 doors on a multiple server. And the user capacity can take more than 90,000. And then the listed below, those are default database, which is the PostgreSQL, but it also supports your SQL Server database and your Oracle. And then the supported operating system, which is Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, and the Windows Server 2008 and 2012. Regardless of the operating system bits, which you have your 32 bits and your 64 bits. And then our suggested browsers, it's Internet Explorer 11 and above. And then we have Firefox 27 and above. Then we have Chrome 33 and above. And then these are the minimum PC requirements should you need to run biosecurity on your basic PC. And then here are the features that you should expect on biosecurity. As stated before, that the biosecurity is an all-in-one solution. It has the modules listed. You can manage many doors. It is stable, fast, and it has a constant communication. And then it has advanced control functions like your global anti-passback and your global linkages. So basically, your global anti-passback, it means that you can create anti-passback between controllers. You can create anti-passback between controllers. And then same applies as your global interlock and then your global linkages. So basically, you'll see these features when you're going through the software itself. And then we have the video integration, which we can integrate with the third-party cameras. The companies listed below and the products we can support on biosecurity. And then biosecurity also offers an automatic data backup, so you don't have to manually back up every time. And then it has our alarms and email notifications, and our SMS is optional for in case of your emergencies when an alarm is activated, for your duress, or the door was opened unexpectedly or forcefully so. And then the software provides you with the system log monitoring, which the system log monitoring allows you to see all the logs or all the changes that were made on the software by an administrator or any other user. And then the software supports our InBio Pro access control panels. It also supports our Green Label product series. And then it supports also the card printing function, supports the badge printer, the QR code, and the barcode scanner. Then it has your elevator control modules for both online and offline monitoring. And then it has also been integrated with Acteco. Which is a video software, and a C2P video middleware, and connect with Milestone. And then ZKBiosecurity also has a mobile app, so you can easily manage your doors. You can easily manage your doors from anywhere on your mobile phone. Okay, now I'm going to present the installation guide on how to install the software. After downloading the software, you will run the execution as administrator, and then the setup select language will pop up. Then you select the preferred language, and then after you've selected your preferred language, the software automatically tests the environment, which is your PC in this case, or the server that you are running the software on. And then all the environment, like your admin user environment variable test, and your service port test, software conflict test, and your antivirus software test will be tested, and then all of them should be in green. Should one be in red, then you just need to revert and then deactivate. Normally it's your antivirus that's causing the conflict, or a conflicting software. If you have any other ZK software in your PC, and then you are trying to install ZKBiosecurity, and then it pops up an exception. So you just need to deactivate the software or uninstall it, and then you can run your biosecurity setup again. So if the software has detected an antivirus which is active, and then is blocking communication between the software and your PC, the following message box will pop up, and then you need to deactivate your antivirus or pause protection for a few hours, and then you can run the setup again. Once the environment is tested successfully, you click on Next, and then you accept the license agreement, and then you select a port number. Please make sure that you add an exception, a firewall exception for the port number that you selected, because the port number that you select here will be used by ZKBiosecurity. And then you are allowed to change your port, but it cannot be the same as the database port, which is 5432, and it cannot be the same as the Redis port, which is 6380. Then once you have selected your port, you can click Next, and then there it shows the file where the software will be stored in your drive C, and you can click Next. There it shows your security backup, so that's the folder that is automatically created by the software for your backups. Then you can click Next, and then now you can install the software. And then in a case where you have access 5.2 or 5.3, and then you wish to migrate your database to biosecurity, the software automatically picks up the 5.2 or 5.3 database, and then it allows you to automatically integrate the database. So this is the window that will pop up if you are migrating or upgrading from the Access 5.2 and 5.3 to biosecurity. So everything will be done automatically by the software. You don't have to worry about anything. You just need to click on migrate, and the migration will be done successfully. And then once the installation is done, please reboot your PC to make sure that all the files are correctly installed. So on the ZKBiosecurity today, we'll be touching base on the personnel module and the access control part of it. And then on our part 2, we'll continue with the other modules, but for today, we'll do the personnel module. Okay, so this is our fully installed ZKBiosecurity, and then so this is our ZKBiosecurity software. I'm gonna log out and log in again. Okay, so this is our ZKBiosecurity software, and then our login details by default is admin in small letters. So this is our ZKBiosecurity software. Today we'll be doing the personnel tab and the access tab. So in order for you to manage your personnel or to make it easier for you to have a working workflow or a simple structured workflow of the software, you need to start by creating your departments. So basically creating your departments makes it easier for you to manage your personnel in terms of their respective departments. For you normally to create a department, we normally have the first department by default as general. So to make it easier for you to manage your departments, you can change it to a company name or you can change it to a department name. Now I'm going to show you how to add a new department. You can click on new. And then you need to give it a department number. And the department number cannot be repetitive. So you need to choose a unique department number. So in this case, we'll continue from 5 to 6. And then you need to give it a name. And you can give it sales. And then you need to allocate a parent department. In this case, it will be ZKTech since it's the company name. Then you click OK. So that's how you create your department. You can edit, should you choose to edit your department, and then you can also delete the departments that you don't need. And then if you are providing for a company that has a large number of departments, or there are different companies within one building, but they wish to use the same biosecurity software, then you can just export an Excel file, and then you can send it to your client. The client can populate the departments for you, and then when you administer the software, you can just import the data back on the same Excel file that you sent to a client. So this is it in terms of creating your departments. Now once your departments are created, now you can create your personnel. Under your personnel tab, this is where you add your users, and then you register your fingerprints and cards as well. So to add a new personnel, you need to click on new. And then the personnel ID, in this case, personnel ID takes up to 9 digits. And then your nine digits can be any number or alphanumeric if you have changed the settings on the software itself. So in this case, you're going to allocate a personnel ID, and then we select a department, and then we give the name. And then you can populate all the other fields, select the gender, And then the password that you input here is the password that the user is going to use to gain access into the building. Should you have a device that has a keypad, so you can just allocate a password, and then you can populate all the other information. And then we can come to fingerprint registration. So in terms of your fingerprint registrations, we have the ZK4500, which is our enrollment reader. So you can click on register. Then you can select a finger that you wish to register. Then it allows you to scan 3 times before it successfully saves the fingerprint. When the finger turns green, it means the fingerprint has already successfully registered. And then we have a duress fingerprint. A duress fingerprint is the finger that you're going to use when you are put under duress or you are forced to open a security door. So you're going to use your duress fingerprint. The duress fingerprint opens the door normally, but sends out a silent alarm to the system administrators or the guards in this case. Then you click on OK. Once your fingerprint is successfully registered, it shows you a fingerprint count there. And then another important part is the card number. So in this case, you can use your CR20E, which is our card enrollment reader, to register the RFID cards. Or you can just key in the card number there. That's your card number registration. And then should you have a device that supports your vein, this is where you can register your vein templates. And there's a vein enrollment reader as well. And then another important part of the software, we have a super user. A super user is a user that there's no restriction that can prohibit them from entering any room. So if you grant a person a super user privilege, it means that person, no anti-passback or no time zone can stop that person from accessing. So you should be careful on who you give this privilege to. And then we have our device operation role. This is a role for your devices. For instance, if you are running on a standalone reader and then you give someone a privilege of an administrator, that person will be the only one who gains access into the menu of the device. And then we have our access control, which is the access level. The master access level is there by default, so you can automatically add your personnel to a default access level, there. And then once that is done, there's additional information that you can populate regarding the user. And then should you wish to issue more than one card to a same person, you can use the more cards function. And then you can have a secondary card. Then you can add another card. And then you can add up to 16 cards additionally. Then you can click on OK. And the profile will be saved. Then we are done in terms of our user registration, and you can also export the list to give it to your client so that they can populate a personal list. And then when you come into site, you can just enroll and register your fingerprints. You can just import it back on. And then you can also delete your users, edit their profiles. Then we are done in terms of our personnel management. Now we can go to custom attributes. Under custom attributes, this tab allows you to add a field that you feel that you need on the software and is not included. For instance, the software accounts for the social security number, and then in other countries they might call it an identity number. So you can just add a new tab there, and then you give it a name, can say identity number, and then you select what type of an input it should be. In this case, you can use a text box, and then the size of the text box there. Then you can click on OK. And then the attribute is added. For you to see that the attribute is added, you can go back to the personal profile. Then you can click on any profile just to edit. Then you can click on more details. As you can see, the attribute that you just added there is identity number. It's there under the table there. And then now we can go to parameters. Under parameters, that's where you can format your personal ID settings. Then the personal ID, by default, the maximum length is 9, but it can take up to 23 characters. And then, should you need to use alphanumeric personal ID, then you need to select it from here. Support letters, and then you select yes. It means your personal ID can support alphanumeric. And then here we have the maximum card length, and then the card format, and then the multi-person card. You can activate and deactivate this option under this parameter option. And then we can go to card management. On the card management, if you click on card, so basically here it shows you all the users that have been issued card, and then should you wish to issue cards by batch, you can just click on batch issue, and then you select the starting personal ID and an ending personal ID, and then you generate the list. When you generate the list, it shows you the person who does not have a card allocated to them. And then in this way, you can issue them by batch. So everyone who is not yet issued a card will appear under this list. And then you can choose which enrollment reader you're going to use. Are you going to use the device that you have in place, or you're going to use the USB enrollment reader. Then once you've selected your card enrollment method, you put your cursor under the card number, and then you start scanning your card. Once the card is scanned, the user automatically moves to the right-hand side under the issued cards. Then you can click on OK. And then in terms of our personnel management, we are done. We're going to move over to access. Okay, this is our access tab. We're going to start by device management. Under this device menu option, it allows you to add your devices onto the software. I have already added the ZKBio 260 Pro. I'm going to delete the device and then re-add it again. Okay, in order for you to add your device, you need to search. Unlike on the ZK Access 3.5, you need to add manually. In this case, on the ZKBiosecurity, once you have changed your IP address to be in the same branch as your PC, you can just search for the device. You can click on search, and then the software will automatically pick up all the devices that are on the network. So it's very important to make sure that you don't have conflicting IP addresses, and then all the IP addresses are in the same range as your PC. There we did pick up an ZKBio, then you can click on add. Another important part in terms of adding your device onto biosecurity is this new server address. The new server address, which is an IP address of the server or a PC that's hosting biosecurity. So every time you're adding a device onto biosecurity, you should have the IP address of the host PC, and then the new server port, which is 8080. This is the port number that you have chosen, or when when you're installing the device and the software. The same port is the same as the port number that's there. And then once you have allocated the server address and the server port, should you need to have a communication password, you can enter it there. And then you can choose to add the device on the access level. Then you can select this is a master access level, which is an access level by default. Then you can clear data when adding. Remember, clearing data when adding will delete everything that's on the reader. So you need to be sure when selecting this option that indeed you need to clear the data that's on the software. I mean on the reader rather. And then you click OK. The operation is succeeded, the device will restart. You click on OK, and then you can close. Wait for the device to restart, and then you refresh the page. Once the device has fully restarted, you can just click on refresh, and the device is added successfully there. Then it shows you the serial number of the device and the IP address thereof. You can rename your device. You can just click there, and then you change the name of the device. You can give it any name, but it's preferably let's say, for instance, this reader will be used for a door in reception, so you can just give it a name and say reception there. Then you can click on OK. You've already named your device. And then you can modify your IP. Once you click here on more options, you can click on more. You can reboot your device, get your personal information, get transactions, synchronize time if you feel that the device is not providing accurate time. And then you can modify your IP here. You can modify your communication password there. And then you can also view the capacity of the fingerprints and your memory that's free on the device. So you're going to move over to door management. In this case, we have added an in-by 160, hence we'll see only a single door since it's a one-door controller. You can click under the door there, and then you can rename the door, and then we can say this is a reception door. And then another important part in terms of the door management here is the verification mode. Here we have the different types of verification mode. Depending on the reader that you have, whether if it has a keypad and the card reader, then you can select password or card. And then if it has you are using your F12s, which supports RFID cards and fingerprints, you can go for an option for card or fingerprint. And then another important part that I need to stress out is that the card and the fingerprint. So each verification mode that has an end, it means you have more than one verification mode. So basically, if you have chosen a card and fingerprint verification mode, it means before you can gain access into the door, you need to use both your card and your fingerprint for you to gain access onto the door. Okay, so these are our verification modes. And then we have the lock open duration. So the lock open duration is the time it will take for a Mac lock to close. And then we have the time zones there. So you can allocate the time zone to that specific door. And then I'm gonna skip over to our duress password. A duress password is the password that you can use when you're under duress. It works the same as your duress fingerprint. And then we have an emergency password. Emergency password and duress password, they are both different because an emergency password is a password that you're gonna use under emergency purposes, like maybe someone has fainted, then you need to key in your emergency password to alert the security guard so that they can call in the emergency services. And then you can copy all the settings to all the doors and then to all the controllers in this case. And then you can click on OK. And then we have the reader definition here. So basically, if you are using a single door controller, it means you're going to have your in and out movement. So you can define your readers here. So your reader 1 will be your reception in. So we can just rename that. It's a reception in. Reception in. And then your reader out will be reception out. Then you can click on OK. And then here we have the types of events. So basically the event types, these are all the events that can occur on biosecurity. The green ones are your normal events, and then the orange ones are your exceptions, and then the red ones are the alarms. So all these are the events that you'll see under real-time monitoring on biosecurity. Then we can move over to device monitoring. So on the device monitoring tab, this is where you can monitor your device. If your device is offline and online, if it's offline, the device there will change to be red. The color will be in red, which will show you that the device is offline. And then you have also the command list count there. Your command list should always be 0. Should your command list be more than 1, it means there's something wrong with your device. Then you just need to clear the commands and then make sure that the device is connected successfully. Then we can move over to access control. Then we have time zones. So basically this is where you create your time zones. Time zones meaning that you can create times, the valid times for your users to access the building. For instance, if you have working hours from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, you can create a time zone for that specific working time so that no one can gain access before 8 o'clock in the morning, and then no one can gain access after 5 in the afternoon. So you can click on this. I've already created the time zone. You're going to select your start time and your end time. So once you have created your start time and your end time, no one will gain access before 8, and then no one will gain access after 5. And then you can copy the settings to all the weekdays. Then should it continue to Saturday and Sunday, you need to manually change it for Saturday and Sunday respectively. You can click on OK. Your access level, your time zone is created rather. And then we have holidays. Under holidays, this tab allows you to create all the holidays that are there or that are recognized by a specific country, since we have all our different holidays in our different countries. In this case, I've made an example of a New Year's Day. So first things first, you give it a name, which is the New Year's, and then we have 3 holiday types. We have holiday type 1, 2, and 3, and then each holiday type can take up to 32 holidays. And then the holiday types are meant for you to sort your holidays. For instance, you have recurring holidays and non-recurring holidays, and then you have internal holidays which are created by the company. So in this case, it will help you to filter your holidays with their respective types. And then you need to select the start date for that holiday and the end date, and then you need to specify if the holiday is recurring or not. For instance, a New Year's holiday is recurring because it's on the same day on every year. And then we have non-recurring holidays like our Easter holidays. In South Africa, we call it the Good Friday, which it normally changes from year to year, the date changes. So in this case, if it's your Good Friday, then you're gonna say it's not recurring. Then you can click on OK. Then we can move over to access levels. Access levels are the most important part of the software because they determine who gains access to which door, around what time, and then you can sort them as per their respective departments as well. So in this case, the master access level is the 24 hours accessible, and then this is the normal hours, which is only accessible between 8 to 5. So once you have created your access levels, you can add doors to the access levels. In this case, I've already added the reception door. As you can see, once we click there, it shows that door that's already added. And then the normal hours, you can just click there and add, and then you add your door, you move it over to the right-hand side, and then you click on OK. And it goes. Once you have created your access level, now you need to add your personnel to an access level. So you're gonna click set access. Either you can set it up by level, or by person, or by department. So you can give an access level to a whole department, or you can personalize it to give it to individuals. Then in this case, access by level, we can allocate an access level to Philpa, and then we can give him the normal hours access. And then we can click on OK. And then the nice thing about the ZKBiosecurity is that after you've made any change, it synchronizes the data automatically. So you don't have to synchronize your data from time to time. So once you have added everyone to an access level, you can go to real-time monitoring and see if your transactions are going to go through. As you can see there, that's a normal verification. It shows in the real-time monitoring the real-time movements of the individuals there. As you can see, if the fingerprint is not registered, it will show you the unregistered personnel as an exception sign, and then the normal verification is green because it's a normal event. Okay, we can move over to interlock. So basically, interlock is a rule that prohibits you quick movement. For instance, for interlock to be successfully activated, you need a more than one door controller. And then interlock works in this way: you cannot access the next door until the door behind you is closed. This system is normally implemented by most of the banks in South Africa. So you need to close the door behind you before you can gain access to the door, to the next door. So you can click on new to add an interlock, and then you can select the device. In this case, I have added a single door, so you cannot create an interlock on a single door. So basically, you add your device. Once your device is selected, then you can select an interlock rule. An interlock rule basically means you can select a rule that you cannot gain access to the next door before the second door is closed, and then you can do it for more than 2 doors. Then you can click on OK for interlock to be saved successfully. And then we can move over to linkages. Linkages allows you to link your breakers unit with our InBio Pro controllers using our auxiliary inputs and the auxiliary outputs. So basically, in case of emergencies, you can use your break-glass unit connected to auxiliaries, and then you can add a linkage here of what the reaction should be from the controller side. First, you need to give your linkage a name. And then you select the device. You click on OK. And then you should add a trigger condition. A trigger condition is what will trigger the linkage. In this case, if you're using our controller, which is the ZKBio Pro, we have an auxiliary input, so you can connect your break-glass unit under our auxiliary inputs. So you can scroll down, and then these are auxiliary inputs. And then if our auxiliary input is shorted, then you can select, that's your trigger condition. And then the input point, which is the reception or the device, it has your auxiliary input 1. If you have 2-door control, it will have input 1 and 2. If it's a 4-door, it will have 4 inputs. Then you can select on any there, and then now you have your output point. Your output point, these are all your doors that you need the output to happen on. So you select your door, and then should you have a siren, you'll be connected it to your auxiliary output on the controller, and then you can select there, so that once the auxiliary input is shorted, the siren will also go off. And then there you have your action type. Your action type, you can select if it's then a break-glass unit, and in case of fire, once the break-glass unit is activated, what you need the door or the maglock to do. So in this case, you need it to be open. So once the auxiliary input is shorted, the maglock will release. So once you have selected your action type, you also have the video linkage. The video linkage, you can link your IP cameras to ZKBiosecurity, and then you can bind the cameras to your break-glass unit. Once the break-glass unit is activated, you can select that you need a pop-up video of 10 seconds, and then you need also to capture a video of 30 seconds long, and then you need a snapshot as well. And then should you need it to display under real-time monitoring in POP, it will pop up for 10 seconds. And then you can go to email notification. Then an email notification, once your auxiliary is shorted, the software, if you have set up your emails, the software will automatically send out an email. We do have an option for an SMS, but this requires a customization of the software. So this is basically how you create your linkage, and then your actions and reactions, and then you can save. Now we move over to anti-passback. Anti-passback is an invention that is created to prohibit the in and out movement, to limit the movement of the users. So basically, the anti-passback forces you to check in and then check out before you can check in again. So you cannot check in on one door without checking out. So it just limits the movements of the users. And then it just also limits the users from opening doors for one another. Like for instance, in the factories, most users, they log in for each other. Like for instance, if they're using cards, I'll give my colleague my card to go and log in for me, or my colleague opens the door for me. So anti-passback will limit that movement. Once you have opened a door for someone, you can never gain access when you come back. So you can click on New to create an anti-passback there. Then you select your device. Then once the device is selected, you can select the rule. So this one will create an anti-passback between the readers of the reception door. Then you can click on OK. Then we can go to real-time monitoring to test the antivirus spec. As you can see there, under your reception is under the reader name there it says reception in. So this is the check-in. You are coming in, and then once you need to use the reader in again, anti-password is activated because it needs you to check in, then check out before you can check in again. So that's how anti-password works. And then we can go to the first person normally open. So the first person normally open is the first person who normally opens the door. So if you allocate this function to someone, it means that person should be the first person in the building to open the building before anyone else can gain access. So should you need to use this, you need to give this a privilege to someone who's always on time, because you can't risk everyone waiting outside for someone to come and open the door. And then we have the multi-person group. The multi-person group, you first need to create a group so that you can have your multi-person opening door. This setting, it's normally done at the banks. Maybe you have, or your finance office. If you have a finance office or a safe, and then it requires more than one person to open that door, normally this is the setting that is created. So we first need to create a group, and then give it a name. Once the group is added, then you can add your personnel into the group. So in this case, we have 3 personnel into the software, so you can add all 3 into the group. Then you can click on OK. Now you have created your group. Now you can set up your multi-person opening door. Then you can click on New. And then you need to give it a name. And then you select the group that you've created. And then here you select the number of opening. The number of opening, basically, I've created a group of 3, but in this case, you can select 2. If you're selecting 2, it means any 2 of the 3 guys can open the door. But if you select 3, it means all 3 of the guys on the group must be present before the door is open. So if it's on 2, it means any 2 can open. Then you can click on OK. Okay, let's give it a name. Device first. Okay, then click on OK. Then click on OK. There. Our multi-person opening is activated. We can test on the real-time monitoring there. As you can see there, the multi-person opening is activated. When the first person authenticates, it requires the second person before it can trigger the relay. So that's your multi-person opening function there. And then we can move over to our advanced functions. Under our advanced functions, we need to first define the rules, and then define our zone, define our readers, so that we can see the function of who is inside. So under your reader define, you need to specify, for instance, your environment. For instance, each building you have your entry door. So the entry door will move from outside maybe to reception, and then you have other offices which have doors. So for you, you need to create your zones in this case. And then let's create a new zone here. You can give it a name, a code first, and then the code needs to be unique as well. So in this case, we'll give it code 5. and then we'll give it sales. Then we say okay. And then under your reader define, you need to define your reader. For instance, we have our reception in. Our reception in reader, you need to define it that it goes from where? It goes from outside, and then it goes into reception. So this is basically how you define your readers. And then you can click new, and then your reception out, it moves from reception and then it's going outside. So you can do all these for the different devices that you have added onto your software for your in and out movement. And then you can click on OK. Once you have defined your readers there, it makes it easier for the software to determine who's inside. As you can see in this case, it shows the last known position of the users. So it will show you your departments there. And then when you click there, it shows that there are 2 people in reception, and then 0 in reception, 0 in support, and 0 in sales. So that's how the who's inside function. You first need to create your zones and then define your reader so that the who's inside function can be accurate. And then we have our global anti-passback. Our global anti-passback is the same as the anti-passback under access control, but this one it allows you to create anti-passback between controllers. So you can create anti-passback between the readers of different controllers. We can just quickly create one. So basically, you need to give it a name. Okay, and then you select the zone. And then for this to be successful, you first need to activate your background verification. Once we have set it up there, we have the timed anti-passback and then the timed logic anti-passback. So basically, a logical anti-passback is our normal anti-passback, and then the timed anti-passback is an anti-passback that will lapse after a few minutes that we have set. For instance, if it's a timed anti-passback and then the local duration is 10 minutes, so it means once the anti-passback is activated, after 10 minutes, it will reset and then you gain access again. So this is our global anti-passback. For it to be successful, you need to go to device, and then you select the device there, and then you activate your background verification. It's your background verification, so you need to enable your background verification so that it can be able to detect your global settings. Okay, I need to delete the last person. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I need to go to the bathroom. You can just hold on for me for 2 minutes. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We can continue on the global linkages. So the global linkage, you can create your linkage so that when your linkage is activated or a condition is activated, it can activate or release the MAC logs of all the controllers that are added on the software. So basically, is the same as the other linkage that we've already touched base on, but in this case you can give it a name, say to link approval, and then also you can create a condition there. It can be your auxiliaries again. Your auxiliary input is shorted, and then you can add your input auxiliary. And once your input is activated there, you can add your door or doors. So if you have more than one door controller, you can add as many doors as you can there, depending on how many doors you have on the software. And then your auxiliary input can be your siren there. And then you choose the action type, and then you have a timed delay, which it will open the door for 20 seconds, and then if it's normally open, it will open it until the linkage is reset. So you can just keep it normally open, and then you can also do the video linkages there, the pop-up, the capture, and the video recording there. And then you have your active time. Under your active time, so you can create a time zone where the linkage will be active for. If you need it only to be active during the working hours, you can use the normal. And if you need it to be active for 24 hours, then you can use the 24 hours accessible. And then you can set up an email address there, which will automatically send the email to notify the guards that the emergency breakers unit has been activated. And then we have the voice prompt. So should you need to add a different sound, or maybe you have a different alarm sound for different events, so you can upload your own voice prompts here onto the software. So this is it in terms of your linkage creation. And then we have the global interlock. So global interlock is the same principle as the interlock, that you cannot gain access into the next door before the door behind you is closed. But in this case, it's on a global state, which is on different doors of different controllers. So if you have in Bio 160, which is the one door controller between two offices or on a passage, the door one on the passage and the door two. So it allows you to create an interlock between those two controllers without having to buy or cycle for a 2-door controller or a 4-door controller. So it allows you to create your interlock there. But first you need to create a group. Then in the group you need to give the group a name. And then if you have the doors here of different devices will appear here, and then you can move them over to the right hand side, and then you say okay. Once you have selected your doors, now you can create a global linkage. So link. Okay. Now you can add your group of doors onto that linkage. So that's how you create a global linkage. And then we can move over to the reports. So these are the type of reports that we have onto the software. We have all transactions. Under all transactions, it shows all the transactions, which is your normal events and then your exception events. As you can see, anti-passback is an exception, it appears there. And then should you need events of just today, you can just click on events of today. It will show you the events of the day. And then your last known possession there, it shows the last known possession of the users there. And then for all the exceptions, you can click on all exception events. And then here is the access by door. So it's basically who has access to which door. And then the access right by personnel is the same as access by door, but it's vice versa. And then you can export your reports. You can select the time from, and the time to, for instance, from yesterday up to today. And then should you need it for a specific personnel, then you can key in their personnel ID there. And then you can search. So in this case, if you are using default's personal ID, it will only show records for default. And then should you change, and then you generate, it only shows the reports for Godfrey. So you can filter your report in that way. And then it allows you to export your report as well. And then those are the file formats that you have on the software. You can export an Excel file, a PDF, or a CSV file. Then you can click on OK. Now, as you can see there, the report is successfully exported. And then there you have your charts. So in terms of your charts, it shows as to which event and their statistics. As you can see there in orange, we have the normal verify open, which is the most. It's an event that occurs more, and then we have unregistered personnel, followed by the operation interval is too short, and then the green for devices started, and then we have our multi-person authentication wait, and then we have our background success. So basically, this is just a basic summary of the events that are occurring into the system. Okay, so we have come to the end of our session for today. So if you have any questions, you can send them on the chat there, or you can send the questions directly to me by email under the email address, or you can call in on the number on screen there. See that. Okay, I'm reading the questions that are sent on the web seminar. And then I have a question from Michael. He's asking if the software can work with the F12, F17, or F18. So basically the software works with the InBio Pro series and the Green Label standalone range. So should you need to use your F12, you have to connect it to an InBio controller. And then the F17, only the full version of the F17 can connect on the biosecurity software, and the F18 cannot work on the ZKBiosecurity. Thank you. Hi, Koketo. Yes, the additional cards, the additional cards, you can have up to 16 per individual. Hi, Melusi. You can send in your questions on the email address listed below. That's support@zkteco.co.za. And then please note that Gova's email address, please send in requests regarding today's training only. No further questions. Should you need any other information regarding any of our software or products, you can send in to sales@zkteco and support@zkteco, not directly to Gova. You can just an exception for today's training. You can send your emails to Gova. And then I got another question from Michael. He's asking if he can use all the in-bio controller range on the ZKBiosecurity. And no, you can only use the in-bio Pro series. So the black controller that you normally use on Access 3.5 does not work on the ZKBiosecurity software. Thanks, Michael, for the question. Hi, George. I see your question that is there license fee for the license for the software? Yes, the software is licensed per door. And then for all the pricing or any other questions relating to the software in terms of the prices, you can contact our sales team on sales@zkteco.co.za. Thank you, George. Hi, Melusi. The first person normally open, the only way to override it is to have a super user. So the super user does not have any exceptions. So your question was, with the first person normally open, is there an option to override the setting in case of a no-show by the first person? So yes, you can override it by giving the super user privilege, but if you don't have that super user privilege to anyone, you have not given it to anyone, then it will be a problem. You'll only need that person to open the door. Thank you. Hi, George. Your question is it possible for me to download and reply this and replay this session for myself? Yes, the video will be loaded on YouTube and then on our website as well. Thank you. Hi, Michael. Yes, the InBio Pro are the white controllers. Hi, Manuel. Your question here, it says, could you kindly show us how to back up the whole config in case of the system crashes, the data recovery procedure? Okay, the ZKBiosecurity does an automatic backup, but you can do your manual backup. Let me just quickly go to the system, and then you go to database management. And then you have your backup immediately, and then you have your backup schedule. So here you can select your schedule on how frequent can your database be backed up automatically. So you have after each and every day, then you can do a backup after 3 days, after 7 days, and after 30 days. So, and then you can select what time should it start the backup. So once you have selected the frequency of your backup, after each and every, depending on your selection here, that the backup will be processed automatically. And then should you do manual, you need to do manual backups, then you can do it from here. And then once your backup is successful, then you can go to your Drive C folder. There's a security backup folder created automatically by Biosecurity. So you can go there, and then this is the folder that stores your backup, your security backup. So these are all the automatic backups and the manual backups. They will all be stored in this folder. And then should you need to restore your database backup, you need to run service controller. You need to wait for your service controller to run so that you can restore your database using the service controller. Okay, there it's running. You can right click and then you select your restore database. And then it allows you to browse for your database file there. And then you can select your database that you need, and then you can restore. So this is how you restore your database. I hope I answered your question. Thank you, Emmanuel.